The following podcast is scheduled for one recording with no time limit. Making their way down to somewhere in the ring, Andrew Sanford and Ryan Sprague.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Ryan here, and welcome Somewhere in the Ring. And today we are doing another impromptu recap and review of the last WWE PLE of the year, and that was with NXT. That's right, NXT just had NXT Deadline, which came to us live from Minneapolis. Gosh, I can barely say that. Minneapolis Armory in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So this was a pretty cool PLE, I'm not gonna lie. We had 2 Iron Survivor Challenge matches, a match I've never even heard of before, but man, do I have some thoughts on those. So stay tuned for that. We had in the men's Iron Survivor Challenge match, Ethan Page, Wes Lee, Javon Evans, Nathan Frazier, and a mystery competitor, which we'll get to, and they faced off each other in the men's Iron Survivor Challenge. And then with the women, we had Saruka facing Zariah, Julia, Ren Sinclair, and Stephanie Vacker, my personal favorite in NXT right now. Other matches on the NXT Deadline card included Nathan Frazier and Axiom defending the NXT Tag Team Championship against No Quarter Catch Crew, Lola Vice taking on Jada Parker in an NXT Underground match. We'll get to that. And finally, Trick Williams defending the NXT Championship against Ridge Holland. So, let's start off with where Deadline started off, and that was the men's Iron Survivor Challenge. Ethan Page versus Javon Evans versus Wes Lee versus Nathan Frazier versus TBD. So Javon Evans and Wes Lee started the match. Evans goes for a really early pin. He hits a standing shooting star, and Lee rocked him with a kick and dumped him over with a suplex. The action continued for a while. Let's see here. The match spilled out into the ring, and there was a brawl ringside. Evans dove into them, and Frazier and Evans go back and forth for a while, and Evans dumps Lee with a slam. They keep battling. There's Frazier with a clothesline. Frazier dives onto both competitors at ringside, and then Ethan Page enters the match and drops Lee and Frazier with some boots. Frazier catches Page with a pin, sending him to the penalty box. Yeah, that's right, there's a penalty box, guys. I feel like I'm at a hockey game. Oh man, go Detroit Red Wings. That used to be my team. Remember when they won a ton of Stanley Cups? I always liked those sort of teams. The Blue Jays were on a run with the World Series for a while. I was a huge Joe Carter, Roberto Alomar fan. I'm going way off track here. Let's get back to this match. So let's see. Page refused to get in the penalty box, but Evans shoved him in there. Frazier gains the upper hand with a clothesline. Page gets back in the ring and stacks up Frazier for the pin, sending him into the penalty box. Lee and Page hit Evans with a doomsday device. Evans responds by diving onto them at ringside. He hits Page with a frog splash. Frazier returns to the ring. The 4 competitors start to trade blows. And then that's when the mystery competitor is revealed. Who is it? Obafemi. Obafemi starts going nuts, slams Page into the penalty box, trapping Evans in there. Frazier sends Femi into the ring post. Evans dives off the penalty box and onto him. And he pins Lee with a cutter, sending him to the penalty box. Evans takes the fight to Femi. Chaos ensues. Femi would end up slamming Frazier and Lee and pins both of them to get 2 points, and the time limit expires as Evan hits him with a cutter, and Obafemi won. That's right, Obafemi is our new Men's Iron Survivor Challenge champion. What's a challenge? Let me know in the comments. I'd be interested what a challenge is. Anyways, let's move to our next match. We had Jada Parker battling Lola Vice. Let's see, this was an NXT Underground match. So we were bound to get some good, violent stuff happening. So the match starts with Vice taking Parker down and hits her with some really brutal strikes. Parker slams Vice. Vice kicks Parker, sending her to the outside. They brawl at ringside, and then back in the ring, Parker slams Vice again. Vice goes for a triangle choke, but Parker powers out of it. Vice hits Parker with a series of strikes. Parker drills Vice with a stiff elbow. And then Parker really starts to target Vice's wounded hand with some knees. She elbows Vice several times. Parker hits Vice with some body shots and another strike to the face. And then she ties a black belt around Vice's wrist and slams her into the ring post. Man, this looked really rough. Vice used the belt as a weapon and clotheslines Parker. Parker slams Vice. She hits a senton on Vice onto the steel steps. Ouch. Parker powers her way out of a submission. She gets a brick from under the ring, but Vice luckily kicks her. Vice locks her in a chokehold, and she transitions and suplexes Parker. Vice goes to grab the brick, but Parker suplexes her. Vice hits a back fist and locks in another chokehold. Parker would eventually pass out, and the referee called for the bell. And Lola Vice was our winner of the NXT Underground match. Next, we are moving to Nathan Frazer and Axiom defending the gold. This was for the NXT Tag Team Championship. Like I mentioned, Frazer and Axiom, or as they're now known, Fraxium, versus No Quarter Catch Crew, which is Miles Bourne and Tavion Heights. This was a great tag team match. Frazer, whose ribs were all taped up, he started the match with Bourne. He quickly tags out, though, and Heights tags in as well. They battle for positioning, and Axiom gets a 2 count with a pin attempt. Frazer refuses to tag in. Heights overpowers Axiom. Bourne tags in, but Frazer does too, and the champions double team him. Then OTM came to the ringside, and Bourne drops Frazer with a dive to the face. Frazer sends Heights to the outside. Axiom kicks Bourne, knocking him out of the ring. The champions dive onto Bourne and Heights at ringside. Heights suplexes Frazer over the ropes and onto OTM, and then the officials come out to get OTM to head to the back, and Heights continues to ground Frazer. Bing, bang, boom, match goes on. Eventually, Heights and Bourne double-team Axiom. Frazer dives onto them and hits a corkscrew splash on Heights for a 2 count. Heights then hits a superplex. Bourne tags in, challenges a hit powerbomb dropkick combination. Frazer then hits a corkscrew splash. Axiom hits Heights with a golden ratio. Axiom then accidentally kicks Frazer, and Bourne levels Axiom with a clothesline. Heights then slammed Frazer, and Bourne and Heights double-team Axiom for a near fall. Axiom then hits a Canadian Destroyer. Axiom gets Bourne with an inside cradle for the win. So the winners and still NXT Tag Team Champions, Nathan Frazer and Axiom. There was some blood during this one too. A broken nose, I'm guessing. We shall see. Next up, we had Trick Williams defending the NXT title against Ridge Holland. Holland overpowered Trick right away. He went for a Redeemer, but Williams countered. They went back and forth. Williams gained the upper hand, and he slammed Holland into the ring post, gets him back in the ring. Holland gains the upper hand this time and overpowers Williams. Holland dumps Williams onto the ropes, keeps him grounded, puts him in a Tree of Woe position, and continues to control the action. But Williams rallies with a flurry of offense, slams Holland. Holland counters with a trick shot and slams Williams. Holland slammed Williams again. Williams dodged a dive by Holland and gets a 2 count with a kick. Both men are down, taking their time to regroup. They get up and brawl at ringside as Holland slams Williams into the steel steps, and then they're back in the ring. Williams goes for a kick, but Holland dodges it, and Williams' neck gets trapped in the ropes. Little scary. Choking him in the process. Holland gets a 2 count with the Redeemer. Williams fires up and hits the trick kick and the trick shot for the win. Trick Williams retains and is still the NXT champion. and we move to our main event of the night, which was very well deserved. I'm just going to say it off the bat. While I don't watch a ton of NXT, anytime I have, the women always show up, show out, and put on an incredible show. In fact, I would say they are the strongest part of NXT right now, dominating over the men, for sure. So we had the Women's Iron Survivor Challenge, Zariah versus Julia versus Stephanie Vacker versus Ren Sinclair versus Sol Ruca. Sinclair and Julia started the match feeling each other out. They traded some really early pin attempts. And then Sol Ruca enters the match and slams Sinclair. She hits a springboard dropkick. Sinclair traps Ruca in a submission, but Julia locks her in on a submission as well. Sinclair wrenches Ruca's arm into a submission hold. They continue to trade submission holds for a while. Julia sends Ruca to the outside and kicks her. Julia gets a pin with the Northern Lights bomb, sending Sinclair to the penalty box. Zariah enters the match, and Zariah takes control by overpowering her opponents. Ruca hits Julia and Zariah with a double soul snatcher. Sinclair returns from the penalty box, but Ruca hits her with a soul snatcher for a pin, sending Ren back to the penalty box again. And Ruca and Julia slam Zariah through the broadcast table. I was wondering when we were going to get one of those during this damn PLE. Thank God. Ruca dives into Julia and Sinclair at ringside, and then Vacker enters the match and takes control with offense. Julia breaks up a pin attempt and stares down Vacker. They square off, but Zariah pulls Vacker out of the ring. Zariah rallies and hits Ruca with a spear. Zariah slams Julia and gets a pin, sending her to the penalty box. The other competitors gang up on Zariah. They trade pin attempts. Zariah takes out Ruca and Sinclair with a moonsault. As we inch closer to the end of the match, Julia gains the upper hand and hits Ruca and Sinclair with a drop kick. Vacker and Julia square off, but they brawl with Ruca and Vacker. Sinclair dodges a spear by Zariah. Vacker pins Sinclair, sending her to the penalty box. Ruca takes Vacker and Julia down with an acrobatic clothesline. Sinclair rolls up Ruca for a pin, sending her to the penalty box. Zariah hits a double spear and an F10. Julia drills Zariah with a knee and pins her. The clock runs out as Vacker tries to pin Julia, but it is too late and Julia is declared the winner. This was an incredible match. The audience was on their feet by the end of this, probably one of the only times during this whole event. Not that anything was wrong. This was a fantastic PLE to go out on in 2024 for WWE overall across the three brands. NXT is awesome. I really have to start watching it more. These wrestlers give it their all, I swear. And the women's division is just insane. So that brings us to my overall grade and thoughts on this. I am going to give this PLE an A-. It was fantastic. I'm so happy that I actually sat down to watch it. I want to watch more, and hopefully we'll start doing more talk about NXT in the main episodes with Andrew in the future. He's a busy guy. He's got 2 kids, he's got a wife, he's got a job, so it's understandable that he and I can really only cover WWE for the most part, week to week in the PLEs, but I love doing these small impromptu NXT, AEW reviews. Maybe I'll try to squeeze in a Defy Wrestling or a New Japan one soon as well. We shall see, but sending my best out to Andrew, and I can't wait for you guys to hear our episode this upcoming week, but I will get to that. Let me get to my overall thoughts on NXT Deadline. The Iron Survivor challenges really delivered. This is an incredibly unique match, one I've never seen before, and I really liked it. Obafemi's return was a really fun boost, and the Tag Team Championship match really exceeded expectations. It was great. The NXT Underground match really lived up to the hype as well. It was brutal. It was great. Loved it. I will say the weakest match of the entire night, which shouldn't be the case since you literally have the champion in this match, was Trick Williams versus Ridge Holland. It really, really fell short. But it did what it needed to do, I guess, to move us on with Trick continuing to be champion. I don't know for how much longer, honestly. Like, even not watching a ton of NXT, I just don't know if he can carry the entire brand. He's young. He's fantastic. And he had such a good program with Carmelo back in the day, which I did pay attention to. But, yeah, I don't know. I think it might be time. Time to move on to bigger and better things with another champion. Will Trick be a part of those bigger and better things? I don't know. This is not to take away from his abilities at all. But is he champion worthy still? Maybe I shouldn't be speaking. I'm not an NXT regular, but that's just it for me. You know, from kind of an outside perspective, this match really was not all it was cracked up to be for these two. What I will say is it's the end of the year, guys. So that means we have a draft coming up soonish as we head to the road to WrestleMania, to the Royal Rumble, everything. So much coming up. Elimination Chamber, the return of John Cena, the continuation of all this Bloodline stuff. The Rock, maybe coming back. Sounds like he's taking quite a break right now from Moana 2 and whatever that Christmas movie was. Red One. Anyone see that? Let us know in the comments. I'm interested to hear if anyone saw Red One and how it was being as expensive as it was to make. Anyways, that's enough of my movie review. Again, I'm giving NXT Deadline an A-. It really did what it had to do to end the year. And it will be very interesting to see what this NXT roster looks like a month from now when the transfer window starts to open and the draft occurs and wrestlers start to move up. Hopefully, move up to the main roster on SmackDown and Raw. We shall see. Could see a lot of changes happening in the very near future. But for now, that is going to do it for my NXT Deadline recap and review. I hope you enjoyed the event as much as you enjoyed our review of it. That being said, guys, if you could, please head on over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify and leave Somewhere in the Ring a rating and review. It would help us tremendously. We're still a new wrestling podcast, and we are going up against some heavy hitters, some awesome shows out there. Whether it's, the Ringer Wrestling Pod or Cheap Heat. You got, what's the other big one? Busted Open. I mean, you name it. There's a million wrestling podcasts out there, and they do incredible work every week, every day. And we're just trying to keep up and trying to really come out and do something unique. And that's bring you these reviews, bring you interesting guests that don't really have much to do with wrestling, but have an interest in it, and everything in between. We're really trying to bring a fresh perspective to the wrestling fans. So head on over, give us a rating and review. We would appreciate it immensely. Make sure you're subscribed to our Somewhere in the Ring YouTube channel, where you can find video versions of mostly all of our podcasts. You can find us on Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram, you name it. We're on there. Just search for Somewhere in the Ring podcast. And lastly, be sure to join our very active Facebook group, Somewhere in the Ring podcast, where we do previews, predictions, opinions, memes, you name it. We have a very awesome group over there at the Facebook group. So yeah, be sure to check that out. And you can find us wherever you find your podcasts. Leave us a rating, review, subscribe, you name it. We want it from you guys. So thank you. Thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this, and we will see you again very soon, somewhere in the ring.
This has been Somewhere in the Ring. Thank you for listening. Subscribe wherever you get your pods, and be sure to rate and review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever possible. We'll see you again soon, somewhere in the ring.